Hello, and welcome to the November 2022 edition of the Starfleet News Service. I'm Lieutenant Jess of the USS Andromeda, and I'm here with Ensign Anne-Marie.
Hi, I'm Ensign Anne-Marie from the USS Hayes.
Hey, so today we're going to be your hosts as we discuss the USS Heimdal, which is a long-serving ship in our fleet. We're going to be celebrating the ongoing release of Prodigy with 2 Murf craft tutorials for all skill levels. And we're going to have news from around Starfleet, including fleet photographs as well as some images from stellar cartography. But first, we're going to have our Commander of Starfleet election results with Anne-Marie.
That's correct. So first, we are going to have a brief word from our Starfleet Inspector General, Stephen Scott, as he gives us a post-interview election.
Today, we're going to be interviewing our Inspector General, Stephen Stott. I want to thank Mr. Stott for all of his hard work and open communication in this election process. I'm going to start off with a fun question. Mr. Stott, what is your favorite Star Trek character?
Well, I would have to definitely go with one of my Vulcans, so that would be Spock.
That's a good choice. Yeah. So down to serious stuff. I only have a couple questions for you today. I know you've been getting a lot lately. What information have we learned from the voting data on how our voters vote?
Well, we had a total of, out of the 4,746 voters, we had about a little over 1,700 voters vote, almost 1,800. Actually, I think, forgive me, because let me go to my notes here so I got the right numbers down. We had a total of 1,856 voters for 39% of the electorate that voted, which is better than the last election. So we're improving.
Now that the election results are in, what tasks do you still have in this process?
Well, the key thing is I do the pay, coordinate with getting the Simply Voting paid. That's really the bottom line up front deal. And then the other thing that I do is I do an internal after action review of how the election went. So I kind of start going from each one of the phases of the election and kind of do a jot down of what went well and what needed to be improved upon.
How will you assist the CS and VCS elect in the transition?
Well, the key things that I will be involved with, obviously, will be related to the roles of the IG. So, for example, if we have any active investigations that are going on, obviously, I will coordinate with both CSs and briefing them up on what's happening, what the status is on that. Fortunately, we're not, all the investigations that we did have closed out. So hopefully the new CS will come in with a clean slate ready to deal with new issues as they pop in.
Well, those are all the questions I had for you today. Thank you so much for your time. As always, the last interview you did was pretty great. So thank you so much, Stephen, and best of luck with this transition.
Oh, thank you very much, and appreciate all the support. And hopefully we were able to vote and your vote counted.
Live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.
So for our next part of our election news will be a 2-part interview. This month, we're going to sit down and get to know our new Admiral and Vice Admiral. Next month, we are going to focus on their goals for their time in office. So I'd like to welcome to the show Admiral-elect David Navage.
Hello.
Hi, how are you today?
Doing okay.
That's great. So I wanted to start off and ask, what is your favorite Star Trek series and why?
Series, I got to go back to The Next Generation. That is just a classic. There's so much that we all learned about Star Trek and about how to actually be leaders in Star Trek through the next generation.
I enjoy the first generation as well. Alrighty, so who is your all-time favorite Star Trek character?
Q for sure. He's he is, you know, on screen he's fantastic, and in person he's a fantastic. John Delancey's a wonderful person.
Oh, I'll have to meet him one day. And how serious are you about canon?
You know, there's always flexibility in everything. I think that it really depends on how divergent people get away from canon. You know, if it acts Trek and you know, and looks like Trek, usually it ends up being Trek. So, you know, I know that there are people out there that really do like to stick to what's the tried and true,
Right.
and I admire that.
I really like that as well. All right, so when did your love for Star Trek begin?
Ooh, well, my first convention was actually in Waikiki in Honolulu, in Hawaii, and it was Nichelle Nichols, and it was amazing to be able to walk into a place that had people that liked Star Trek just as much as I did. After that, the passion kind of took off, where when I was in college, we didn't have UPN network back then. And so my mom would record on a VHS tape and mail it up to me. And the whole school the whole dormitories would all get together on a VCR on a small TV and watch The Next Generation. It was really a lot of fun.
I just have to admit, like, that you went to a convention in Waikiki. Like, not only were you in Waikiki.
I'm born and raised in Hawaii, so I am a resident. And that's currently where I am located right now. I'm here half the year, and I'm in San Francisco, California, the other half.
I'm impressed now. That's even more impressive. So, what was your first year in Starfleet like?
My first year in Starfleet, I had just moved to California from Hawaii, and I knew nobody. And my wife at the time said, "You need to find a social outlet." And so I started looking, and I found the USS Atreides, based in San Francisco. Captain Gady, and was a great mentor at the time. And I sat in the back of the room and had a carafe of wine sitting in the back of a round table. And all of a sudden, I was the most popular guy in the room. And after probably about a year or so, I decided to start my own chapter, and the USS Golden Gate was born and has been flying around the Bay Area ever since.
That is really cool. So have you seen A Woman in Motion, the documentary about the astronaut?
I have not yet, no. I've been kind of focusing a little bit on an election. Haven't had a lot of time.
So is there anything else you would like to tell us today?
I just want to say thank you to everyone that voted for Ryan and myself. You know, we really did try to be as transparent as possible. I think that everyone will be pleasantly surprised at some of the goals that we will be setting forth and discussing in the next episode of the Starfleet News. And really look forward to getting around and seeing Fleet. I plan on doing a bit of traveling, and I will be all over the United States, Mexico, Greece, and most of Region 20, probably within the first quarter.
Wow, that's impressive. And I just want to say thank you for your time today.
You're very welcome, and see you next time.
See you next time. Alrighty, for our next election spotlight, we would like to welcome Vice Admiral-elect Ryan Cass.
She'll be far less impressed by me. She already knows me.
I did actually want to begin with that and say you are actually the reason that I am in Starfleet.
Yeah.
And so I did want to say thank you to that.
I'm pleasantly surprised by how involved you've gotten. Like, we haven't known each other but a few months, and already I kind of see myself in you. So, like, keep it up.
Well, thank you so much. So for our first question, what is your favorite Star Trek series and why?
In an attempt not to meander too far off the question, I started with Next Gen. Next Gen is like my beloved, Star Trek, home is what I call it. My answer to the question has always been Deep Space Nine. I kind of liked the idea of the aliens coming from other places to them. They, yes, they were exploring, but they were exploring like the social side of things. But here lately, the new Strange New Worlds blew me away, and I kept saying while it was still running on Paramount Plus, if they stick this landing, I think this is my new favorite Star Trek. And my God, if they didn't stick that landing perfectly, like callbacks to original series episodes. There's supposed to be more callbacks in season 2. Like, I'm deeply, deeply excited by that show.
Right, and I'm with you with the Next Generation. That's kind of where my love began as well.
Yeah.
So
I didn't go deep on that one because I know what the next question is based on your questions to David. So
okay, so who is your all-time favorite Star Trek character?
I've told Mr. Frakes to his face I have modeled every part of my adult life after him. I started growing a beard because I thought it looked really good on him. I was like, surely that'll look all right on me. I don't pull it off quite as well as him. It's a handsome Joker, but I adore just the idea of Riker, the number 2 guy that keeps the person that he respects most in this world on the straight and narrow, willing to do anything, step up for him. Also, just kind of be kind of a brave face when everybody else is kind of worried. Obviously, he took the Kirk role from the original series, such as it was. But one of my favorite episodes from Next Generation, I don't remember the name of it, but it's the one where they meet the they them non-gendered race, and he falls in love with one of them falls in love with him, and I adore that episode, and I adored the way Riker handled himself through all of that. And pretty much since I've seen that episode, even before I was already thinking it, I adore that character. I like everything he stands for. I like even the books with the Titan. I'm looking forward to seeing him in Picard season 3, and some of his interviews have hinted at the fact he might have more to do with Star Trek going forward. So more is more to me.
Riker is dear to my heart as well. So how serious are you about canon then?
I will say for a long time, I was probably one of those, forgive the term, I was probably one of those neckbeards that was just real. No, if it isn't on one of the shows, it isn't real. I have fallen dearly, dearly in love with a lot of the fan films and things like that, especially like being Region 2 coordinator. I've gotten to know a lot of the people that run them. They do such a good job, and therefore that dearth of no Star Trek, they were holding the fandom up. For me, like, their very existence is what kept us going. Do more. I kind of, I share in the frustration of the CBS Paramount finger wag at all of the fan film stuff. But at this point, if you're having fun with it and it's not doing any damage to Star Trek, you're here to lift things up, make the message of Star Trek that much more vocal and powerful. I'm for it.
Definitely, I feel that as well. So when did your love for Star Trek begin? Because definitely you're very passionate about it.
Yeah, it's like I'm sitting in front of a green screen. I've got a lot of. I'm surrounded by Star Trek at the moment. I went and got myself a con toy yesterday. My love for it though, me and my father, we haven't had a falling out. We still speak. It's nothing like that. But we're very, very different people. He's deep South hunting Southern boy. I'm, computer nerd, sit at my desk and plug myself into the world type person, and all that goes with both of those sentimentalities. And he and I, that show, Next Generation, came out in '87, if I'm remembering correctly. That I'd have been very, very young, too young to really understand what I was seeing. But some of my first memories, around 91, 92, I'm probably 6, 7, 8 years old, sitting in a chair or in my dad's lap watching Star Trek, and just kind of sharing in the message of it. And my dad always talked about Star Trek, and one of his favorite things, and I mentioned it yesterday at our meeting, Emery. I like that Star Trek doesn't try to posit the answer to certain questions. It just presents the thought subject, and seeing a lot of what Next Generation and Star Trek in general had to say, even in the early '90s, and certainly in original series when it was on television. I just like that they posit a question, ask you to think about it, and then, certainly add a level of, you should probably be thinking in this direction, but we still won't present you with the answer. Like, it almost begs the answer and it won't give it to you. And I just, so to functionally answer the question, around 91, 92, just starting to fall in love with Star Trek. And as Deep Space Nine and Voyager came out, I stayed on Star Trek until I got to college, and frankly just didn't pay for cable to keep watching when Enterprise was on.
Wow. I was born in '95, so your love of Star Trek goes even further than me.
I was born in '85, so I can't claim to have brought a VHS tape to my dorm room like David can.
So what was your first year of Star Trek like?
Starfleet.
Starfleet. My apologies.
My first year, so I can remember the exact thing. Every once in a while, it comes up on my Facebook memories and my little Amazon photos thing. I joined Starfleet. I had heard about Starfleet in a very general sense when I went to the I think it was the 20th anniversary of Next Gen, and they had a small get together. It didn't include Will Wheaton or Patrick Stewart, but the rest of the cast was in New Orleans at their Comic-Con. And I heard about the USS Hayes through I think it was the USS New Orleans at the time. And they were like, "Oh, you should join the Hayes," because I stopped at the booth, talked to them for a while. And promptly, like most people do. And that's why I try not to, drop too much emotion at people not showing up to a meeting after they sign up on our little pages or whatever. It's easy to forget. I did it. About a year and a half later, I was walking out of the theater from Star Trek Into Darkness. And when I walked out of the theater, the USS Hayes was set up in the lobby of the movie theater in Madison, Mississippi here. And I got to meet 4 members of the ship, some that are no longer with us, some that are no longer part of the ship, and some that actually still are. And I asked them when their next meeting was. It was at a restaurant right up the road from my house. I was like, okay, I'm going to show up. Me and my wife got really, really excited, showed up, got to meet Lucy. It was Farron then, Lucy Frank now. And she was the CO at the time. I fell in love with it from then. I joined when I got home from that meeting. This is 2013. And took my OTS the next day. And I think I took OCC about 6 months later when Lucy announced that she was leaving the ship and John Yelverton was getting ready to take over. And I just, I wanted to get involved. I wanted to do stuff. I applied for various regional positions that just didn't shake out. And then it kind of came up that the region coordinator elections were coming up that year. And I decided to run. Now, this is outside of my first year, but just on the outside of my first year was when I won the election to the region coordinator position.
Wow, that's very impressive.
I I have a problem where when I find something I'm interested in, I go way too deep, way too fast, and here I am.
If that's a problem, then we both have a problem then.
Well, good.
So,
I'll remember that.
so is there anything else you would like to tell us today?
Honestly, kind of the same thing that David was saying. Thank you. I'm very, very excited. I'm a little heartbroken that I'm, stepping down as region coordinator. I've loved being the coordinator for Region 2, the southeast of the U.S. is, it's where I've grown up. It's where I take my vacations. I know these people, and these people know me. I deeply, deeply adore them. I've always felt like you guys were home. I've always felt like you guys had, my best interests at heart, even when I was coming into the position and didn't know what I was doing. If I go on to a next, big adventure, I'm still around, still going to be very involved. My wife is still the auctioneer for the region. But, with that being said, just, me and David have other, bigger ideas. We're very candid in what those plans are. And obviously you guys elected us to do them. So we're going to try to get it done in the 3 short years we've got.
Well, I want to personally thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd do this again in a heartbeat.
So for our next segment, I recently sat down with Admiral Linda Smith from the USS Heimdal, a long-serving chapter of Starfleet dating back to the early 80s. Here's what she had to say about the legacy of her chapter, their community efforts, and the experience so far in Starfleet. Hi, welcome, Linda. Welcome to the news service. So for anyone out there who may not be aware of the USS Heimdal, can you give us a brief introduction on your chapter? For instance, where does the ship hail from? When was it founded? And how did you hear about the ship, Starfleet, and what made you want to join?
Okay, the chapter was founded in 1984, so we've been around a long, long time. I started the chapter when I was 2.5 years old. I got interested in Starfleet because I had seen Star Trek II, was grieving the loss of Spock, saw an advertisement for Starfleet in the back of a Starlog magazine, and that's how I joined. And then because of that, I joined the USS Jamestown in Eastern Virginia, and I shuttled off of that, and the rest really is history. We're in Madison Heights, Virginia, Region 1.
Madison Heights, Region 1. Perfect.
Yes.
So since the ship was founded in the early 80s, it must have a pretty rich history and seen a lot of changes over the years. Can you tell us a little bit about how the ship has developed since its inception, and maybe some highlights of important events in the ship's history?
Yeah, I mean, we started out as a shuttle, and we had, we scraped together 5 members, and we ended up with people who were just really diehard Star Trek people. We started the chapter, we accumulated more people. We were geared toward, just having fun, having costumes, going out and going to movies, watching the episodes, that kind of thing. But as we've continued, we got more interested in doing community service. The first thing we did, I think, was sponsor a whale through a whale adoption program. We've started donating to the local Humane Society. And, from that point on, we just have progressed, and we still do costuming. We still do public appearances, that sort of thing. But the thing really that drives us is our community service. But, the chapter itself, we try to be very diverse, and we feel like we have something for everybody.
Which I feel like is very important. And you said, just as you said, many chapters and organizations in Starfleet focus on that charitable and that core component of the ship's value. And that's the case for the USS Heimdal, as you just said. Can you tell us specifically about, I heard that y'all do a space camp program.
Yeah. back in 1999, we had one of our members was a former NASA employee. She suggested that we might do some fundraising and try to send a local kid to space camp. And we did that. And we actually ended up sending 2 children in 1999, which cost us, for both kids, it was like $795. And the next time we decided we were going to do that, the price had quadrupled. And there was no way we could afford to do it. So from 1999 till 2009, we did not send a kid to space camp. But one of our members decided that we could make a lot more money if we became a nonprofit. So I worked with an IRS agent all summer long in 2005 and got our nonprofit status. And from that, we've been able to get corporations, local businesses, that kind of thing, to donate to us. We started doing a local public charity auction and have started bringing in enough money to really not only sponsor a space camp trip for a child every year, but we sponsor 9 other charities at Christmas. But the space camp thing is really something that's very visible, and everybody knows what space camp is. And we just completed our contest in the local middle schools, and the child that will be going to space camp in Huntsville, Alabama for a week in June, it will be the 16th local student that we've sent to space camp.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. I have to say, I would have loved to have space camp when I was growing up. So as someone who's spent a lot of time in Starfleet, I bet you've seen a lot of changes in the organization over the ship's history. What are some biggest changes, differences that you've seen?
Well, when I joined Starfleet, you got this neat little membership packet, and it had a membership card, and it had a notepad and a bumper sticker, and I was so excited to get that. The first one I got, I just was so excited because it makes you feel, or made us feel, like there really was a Starfleet out there somewhere that was communicating with us. So that was that was cool. And getting to communicate through the mail was cool. Being able to contribute to the communique, all that was just so special. And I was regional coordinator of Region 1 for 10.5 years, and having the opportunity to go to the ICs and meet everybody. And, I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the people of Region 1. I knew all of the chapter COs on a first name basis, and we had 60 chapters at one time. So all that was great. I think that, I think something is missing in not having that direct communication with Starfleet, like getting something through the mail from Starfleet, because the fantasy aspect of this organization is still real. And it's still something that's exciting, right, especially to new members. So what we started doing, I guess it's been 3 years ago now, is we started making a bumper sticker it says USS Heimdal, your #1 outer space car or something like that. And so we ordered those for all of our new members. Our new members still get that, and they get, all of our renewing members get a different bumper sticker every year. It just is cool to get something through the mail.
Definitely. And I think that's really, really cool. Speaking of someone who is just recently joined back in July. So as someone, pretty new, what advice could you give me about getting the most out of Starfleet?
I think a lot of people, or some people, tend to join organizations and Starfleet with the attitude, what can this do for me? And really, what you get out of Starfleet or any organization that you belong to really depends on what you're willing to put into it. We have some pretty amazing guest speakers at our meetings. The woman who's coming to talk to us on Saturday she worked for NASA. She was a friend of the woman who wrote the book Hidden Figures, and so she was a consultant on the Hidden Figures movie. And so she's going to come in person. She lives out here in this area and on a farm, and she's going to come and talk to us about the movie, being a consultant, that kind of thing. So we make those things available. The people who don't come, that's their choice, but we feel like they're missing out on a lot of things because they don't participate. But it has to be your choice, and it depends on what you put into it. With COVID, we started doing Zoom, and now we do all of our meetings are in person now, but also on Zoom, so that all of our people, whether they're local or at a distance, have the opportunity to enjoy these meetings that we do.
And I think that's really great, especially, you put out what, you get out what you've put in. And I love Starfleet, and I loved hearing all of your stories today. And it makes me even more pumped up about being in Starfleet, or, than I already was. And I just want to thank you again for having this lovely chat today.
Thank you so much. It really has been an honor to be invited to do this.
Open Heimdal style.
Gangnam Style. 낮에는 따사로운 인간적인 여자, 커피 한 잔에 여유를 아는 품격 있는 여자, 밤이 오면 심장이 뜨거워지는 여자, 그런 반전 있는 여자. 나는 선호해. 낮에는 너만큼 따사로운 그런 선호해. 커피 식기도 전에 원샷 때리는 선호해. 밤이 오면 심장이 터져버리는 선호해. 그런 선호해. 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 그래 바로 너 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 그래 바로 너 지금부터 갈 때까지 가볼까.
Open
Heimdal style.
Gangnam Style. 오빤 Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style.
So for more information about the USS Heimdal, please visit them on the web at the ussheimdal.com.
Oppa Heimdal style. That was hilarious. And thank you for sharing those amazing interviews, Anne-Marie. Now I feel like I have to interview you really quickly and ask, who is your favorite Star Trek character?
Oh, that's very hard. I'm in between two, Mr. Spock and Data. Those are my two favorites, and they both play the kind of same role on different ships. So those are my loves. I love them so much.
You're both wonderful. I'm also torn. I've got my bad boy, Mr. Profiteer Quark, who's always so much fun. But I think my heart belongs to Mr. Saru. I love how he embodies Starfleet inside and out. It is just so beautifully portrayed by Doug Jones, who's the most delightful person in the galaxy, perhaps.
Definitely.
So moving forward, Star Trek Prodigy-inspired crafts that are brought to you by Serena Jones's Tribbles.
You can never have just one Tribble.
No. And now they can come with hats. So make sure to place your order for Tribbles with Serrano Jones today. So moving on, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make your very own Murf. Come on down to Build a Murf workshop where you can get your own beautiful little melanoid slime worm of your own. So to make your Murf, you're going to need 3 different parts of fabric. You're going to need 2 different body panels and then a belly panel. So to make that, the first thing you're going to want to do is draw up a pattern. So when I look at Murf, I think he looks like an L shape. So I drew an L and put his kind of body shape around it, drawing a line at the bottom of his neck and about an inch and a half away from the tip of his tail, and then 2 X's on the back. Now these X's are going to indicate where you do not sew. And then what you're going to do is measure from your 2 notches. On my Murf, who's about 10 inches tall, that was 11 inches. And this is where you're going to draw the belly panel. So you draw your line, and then you take your Murf, and you take the angle of the body to start, and then you draw it down all the way to the bottom of the line. So this will translate into the belly panel. So once you've got your pattern drawn, you're going to want to get your fabric. I really like to just use cotton fat quarters. These can be bought at Walmart, Joann, any kind of fabric store, and they come in all kinds of cute patterns. I love the space pattern. So, and it's about this big, and 1 fat quarter will get you 1 Murf. So you're going to fold it so that the right sides are touching. Your right sides are the side with the pattern. And once it's folded, you're going to take your Murf body and trace it onto the fabric with a marker. And then once it's traced, you're going to cut about 1/2 or 3/4 of an inch all the way around. And you want to do that because you're going to sew where you drew the outline of your pattern. So you want to leave space for your seam allowance. So you're going to have 2 body panels, a front and a back. And then you only need one belly panel. So once you have everything cut out, what you're going to do is you're going to pin the 2 heads together, once again with the right sides touching each other. And then you're going to start at your notch. And at your notch, you're going to start with your belly panel, and you're going to pin it to one side all the way down to the other notch, and pin it to the other side all the way down to the notch, which is going to give you this little teepee shape. And because with this belly panel, he will be able to stand up, which is really cute. But if you want to do it a little more simply, you can not do the belly panel and just have a little flat Murf. So the next stage, once you have it pinned and sewn, pinned and cut out, is you're going to want to sew. And I really recommend sewing it in 4 parts. You're going to go from notch to notch on one side, being sure only to sew the body and belly of one side, and then go on the other. And after you've done this, sewing down both sides, you're going to want to check and make sure you don't have any crossing of the stitches. If they have crossed, you can easily pick it out or leave a gap and then just hand sew, because if these stitches right here cross, your Murf will have a little kink in his neck. So I think that's the most important thing. And then from there, you're going to go from your notch to your X around the head, and then from your notch to your X around the back, sewing and leaving this gap. So once this is done, you can flip your Murf inside out, but first you're going to want to cut notches wherever there is a curve. So take your scissors and just cut right up to the string, and that's going to help you have the smoothest Murf possible. So then you flip him inside out, and at this point is when, if you want, you can add eyes. So you can add an embroidered eye, you can cut eyes out of felt and glue them on, you can sew a little black button on. That could be really cute. And on mine, I actually used an acrylic paint pen just to draw the eyes on. So once you have your Murf all the way flipped out, you can check him out and massage your seams out to give him his nice round head. And then you're going to stuff him. I like to just use regular polyfill, but any kind of stuffing like you'd use to make a pillow is absolutely fine. And then once he's all stuffed up, I like to add a little extra in the head and body so he's nice and firm. You're then going to go along his back with a ladder stitch to seal him up. And there you go. You've got your very own Murf. And again, if you want to simplify it, you can just use 2 body pieces, and those can even be hand sewn without a machine to do a cute little flat, almost like a pillow type Murf. So I hope that you guys can make your own Murfs and have a little Murf army for your ships. And next, I'm going to send it over to Anne-Marie for her Murf illustration tutorial.
Yeah, so I really love the stuffed animal. Obviously, last month I did my tribbles. Just have a whole collection of Star Trek stuffed animals and creatures is my goal in life, I think, now.
Menagerie.
A menagerie, yes, exactly. So for my Prodigy Murf is a sticker. And so I have a quick video, and I'm just going to talk over it about my process and how I normally will create any stickers that I have and will create. So I use personally on an iPad. And so I start with my first layer, and then I will go in, and my first step always is to create an outline, just to give me that good base of what I'm doing. And getting all the little fine details that I want to keep in, like eyeballs, a mouth. I'm going to go start with those first. And then I'm actually going to create just a layer of just the basic color that whatever my sticker is. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a layer on bottom of that, or on top of that, and do what's called masking, where I'm using that base layer that I just talked about, but I'm coloring over top of it. So in case I go outside the lines, it's not as bad. So I don't have a lot of clean edges to line up. And so I normally prefer to use the actual original image with making my stickers, and I'm going through with a reference picture on the side, if you see that. And I'm just going in with all the base colors that I want. And I will just fill in almost like a coloring sheet, if you want to talk about it like that. And I always go back and forth to make sure I'm doing the right colors in the right spots. And I'm making it dimmer, and I'll go back and forth. And so I use 2 brushes. My first brush is a lot for my drawing, just colors. And then my second brush I use to create all those nice curves. And I designed it myself in the Procreate, where you can actually create brushes, which I find that I love Procreate because I can make any type of brush that I would like. And so I really like the brush I use. I call it even my good line tool, because of the fact that I just sit there and it'll make the best slight curve for me. So for the next part, as you see here, I always find that even if I'm using all the lines, that I'm missing parts or chunks in when I'm coloring it. So I'll use a very contrast color, like I use a deep red for this one, and I'll go in and find all the little parts that I missed when I was actually painting my sticker, just to make sure that I have it precisely as how I would like it. And then I sat there and I blurred it just slightly, because he has that slight almost little blur to him. And then I am going in with this illuminating tool. And so it makes this nice bright, it almost looks like a star for those little spots on him, which I think just made him just pop out even that much more. And then I also realized that there were certain of his dark spots that I wanted to highlight just a little bit more. And then your last step in any stickers is creating that little bubble around any stickers. So what I'll do is I'll actually take my image that I did and I will duplicate it. And then I use a feathering technique in the actual program. And then I will white it out, or in any case, whatever color will be used. And that is how you create a Murf sticker.
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. He looks absolutely adorable. And I don't know about you, but I'd love to plaster my car with those.
I will definitely have to mail you some.
All right. So next up, we have some news from around Starfleet. So we've got some photos and videos shared in with us. And first, we're going to have a video from the USS Corsair of footage from their away mission to the St. Tammany's collecting convention with their newly promoted Lieutenant Junior Grade, Gary Taylor.
Hi, I'm Gary with the USS Corsair. We're here at the St. Tammany's Collectors Con. It's Saturday, November the 5th, 2022. As you can see, there's a large variety of different vendors here. Today we're going to walk a little bit and everybody's just getting started. A little bit rainy today, but we've got people coming in, so it's going to be a great time. The USS Corsair has a booth here at the St. Tammany Collectors Con, and we're just waiting for everyone to come out, enjoy themselves, and have a great time.
That looked like an amazing away mission. I'd love to go in there and try and find the figures of all my favorite characters. So next up, we've got some submitted photographs. First up, we have the USS Blackstone ascending the Hot Springs Renaissance Fair on November 5th. This photo is by Scott Snyder and it was submitted by Desiree Shaw. And great job, guys, fitting in with the medieval population and not breaking the Prime Directive. Next, we have the USS Umiak, which celebrated their 30th anniversary. Congratulations, everyone. Looks like you had quite the party. And this photo was submitted by Tim Johns, as well as the second one of Eric Burnett, the CO of the USS Umiak, holding some birds of prey, both historic and futuristic. I love it. Next up, we have some photos from Stellar Cartography. This first one is of the Milky Way with a photo by our very own member of the Corps of Engineers, Ken Kopacki. This next photo is submitted by Astro Backyard for Starfleet Stellar Cartography. And our final photo is courtesy of Mike Calhoun. And this is 3 hours of exposure of the Horsehead and Flame nebulas with his Nikon camera. I think it's really amazing what you can capture with those long exposures. So if anyone would like to submit photos or content for us for the Starfleet News Service, please email us at the address below, starfleetnewsservice@gmail.com. So that's all we have for you this month. Thank you to everyone for tuning in, and we hope to see you next month. I've been Lieutenant Jess. This has been Ensign Murray.
Ensign Anne-Marie.
And we are signing off. Live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.